So let me just go over these real quickly and kind of point out on this drawing, and I know it's not the biggest drawing we've ever had at a meeting like this, but so in terms of the docks, what we talked about right now, there's just the Cannon Street pier here, and there's actually 2 docks here and 1 dock here. And what we talked about at both charrettes was taking the 3 downrivermost docks, which are part of the marina, condensing them into 2, and then taking the existing Cannon Street pier and putting slips downriver from that, so that this facility becomes 3 docks, which includes the Cannon Street pier. This shows a 70-foot extension into the deep water, which creates about 14 extra deep water slips. The total number of slips goes from 55, which we show now, to 70. But remembering that those 55 slips that we have now, maybe 25 of them are so heavily silted in that they're really only useful for the smallest john boats that you can get out on the river. We talked about keeping fuel for the boaters. That was a point that came up repeatedly from the public and from the boaters. They came to those meetings. We all agree that dredging is needed throughout this entire site. We all also were in agreement that this bulkhead, really starting from the foot of Cannon Street, especially this section, all needs to be replaced and ideally raised. So that's kind of the docks. We also talked about keeping this as a fixed pier, so when this is extended, this would all be fixed, but that these 2 downrivermost docks would be floating so that they rise and fall with the tide, and that eliminates that problem that we have now. They're underwater, like a lot. The marina store, this is kind of an important one. Right now the marina store sits right here. We talked about the fact that this is one of the premier flooding areas, and why not just move that up to the high ground and turn this into essentially a public plaza, a large open space where people can come sit on benches, and maybe it becomes a multi-use area. The marina store would feature basic marine amenities, things like oil, fuel, things that like get the moisture out of your fuel, the basics. And also, importantly, this would have first-class bathroom and shower facilities for transient boaters, and also potentially public restrooms for people that are just walking down here. I know with Sultana that's a big problem. We get, sometimes people come directly to the river, and then they really need to use the bathroom, and I have to send them back up to the visitor center on the other end of town. So that's definitely not set in stone, but that would be, I think, a nice feature. We talked about the fact that the marina store, if it is up here, is kind of far from the slips, so there would be a small attendant station where 1 employee could be to collect fuel money and just kind of help people get in and out of their slips or to answer questions. We talked about moving the fuel tanks, which right now are right here and kind of unsightly and regularly flooded, and moving also them up to the high ground somewhere in this vicinity. In terms of boat storage and maintenance, I felt like there was a pretty decent consensus to get rid of this boat shed, which is kind of out of scale and not particularly historic looking and doesn't really fit with the residences on the other side of Front Street. We talked about eliminating the travel lift and really eliminating the large boat storage. Some of those boats have sat down there for years and are essentially abandoned. But we did talk about also, a lot of people had comments about why all this parking is here. And this here would be used for winter boat storage, but for smaller trailer boats only. So boats in the 12 to 25, 26 foot range. So we could still have a revenue stream from winter storage, but come April, May, we just call the owners and have them come move them off-site, which they could do by just attaching it to their car. Boat ramp, this was kind of a hot button issue. I felt pretty strongly, like most people that attended these, wanted to keep the boat ramp. We talked about centering it more with these slips so that you're not launching into finger piers, which is the situation right now. We also talked about putting trailer parking immediately in front of this, right here. There was discussion about maybe trying to move trailer parking to Wilmer Park, which I felt was controversial and probably too much of a hassle to work out. So I think keeping that there was what I thought most people were interested in. I think we showed 12 of these spots. That's something that we could still work on with the designers.
Right. On the trailer parking, I mean, is it necessary to have specially designated larger spaces? I mean, can't you decouple the trailer from the vehicle?
It's theoretically possible, but it's never gonna happen.
You know,
It's a pain.
But
Yeah,
people
so
can-
yes, and a trailer parking spot should be 40 feet long.
yeah.
We also, because of this boat ramp here, we kind of wanted to create a horseshoe for ingress and egress so that you could come in, have a nice area to pull up, launch your boat, and then pull out. So this is a new ingress and egress point that we don't currently have down there right now. In terms of parking and pedestrian flow, we did redesign the fish whistle parking lot a little bit and put these clearly delineated parking spaces here. Right now, this is usually covered with boat storage. There is theoretical parking all here where we're showing it, but none of it is really striped in any way. So right now, we end up with things randomly parked all over the place.
And that would be paved and not gravel?
This would at least be paved, and we did talk a lot about impervious pavers and trying to make as much of this impervious surface as we can.
Pervious.
And that's what I meant, pervious. So sometimes when you have these pervious pavers, you show the spaces by having gray strips of different colored pavers. But yeah, it wouldn't just be gravel like it is now, because that's kind of ugly in my opinion. For pedestrian flow, a big feature on here is this 12-inch wide. Right now this is maybe 8 feet wide, maybe 6 feet. Do you know, Bill, how wide this dock is right here? How this walkway is right now?
Oh, that's about 5 feet there.
Okay,
Maybe 6.
so we're talking about doubling the width of this and creating kind of a boardwalk feel going around the entire perimeter of the property. This is shown as a 12-foot wide walkway, and right here there's a funky jog that's very awkward and actually a little bit hazardous when you're walking around here. We talked about trying to straighten that out. Of course, you've got your plaza here. This is a new walkway we show in front of the fish whistle. The walkway could then continue up to the Marina store. Currently, we show it going around the boat ramp with an extension in front of Scotts Point. I know that's bound to be a little bit controversial, but that's what we have right now.
Scott's Point?
Yes, some of the residents aren't really fired up. And there was discussion about, is this really ideal to have the walkway going through a boat ramp?
Scott's Point, we have that easement, right?
And theoretically, we do, yes.
I thought it was put in when they put in for their permits, it was put in there.
There is language when that site plan was approved that this would happen when this marina was rehabilitated, which is in theory right now. Raising the grade, this is a big one. As we know, this whole area floods. Ideally, we want to raise the entire grade of this whole area to, we talked about at least the level of the existing Cannon Street pier. Having worked down here now for 20 years, I've only seen this pier underwater during a legitimate hurricane or tropical storm, whereas just about everything else is underwater at this stage at just about every full or new moon. And if that's exacerbated by strong, persistent southerly winds, it comes all the way up to the pump house, which is right up here. I had an interesting meeting with the owners of the fish whistle today. I don't know if they're going to be on board with cost sharing to raise the grade of their parking lot. So another possible alternative, if they're not going to play ball financially, is to simply really raise the level of this entire walkway and maybe extend it up here so that you have almost like a raised boardwalk that goes around this whole area. And their parking lot will probably continue to flood, but there's nothing I can really do about that. So this area, in terms of raising the grade here, is going to be something that we're going to have to continue to have discussions with these guys about. We could raise the grade of this because we own all of this, so I think that's something we probably would still want to do.
Then how would vehicles, you know, you're gonna have 2 levels in the parking area.
It's going to be funky. One possibility is to actually, I talked with Bill about this today, is possibly making this curve and just having a green strip here and essentially having a restaurant parking lot here and a marina operation here.
I like that idea more, because I mean, if we end up raising the grade and we have plenty of parking here, that completely removes the incentive for the official to cost share on raising their grade too. Because people can just park there and walk to the restaurant if they're parking.
Well, they already do that. And another thing that happens is, I know when the boat ramp's here, the easiest way to get to that boat ramp is for me to come through the fish whistle and pop right here because I'm in position to launch. So hopefully by centering this, people will be more inclined to come in here and I won't be driving my trailer through a really busy.
I would really
Restaurant.
like to see, before we go too much farther, to see this plan with the official plat for the Fish Whistle property
Yeah.
superimposed on it, because we only have the vaguest idea where those property lines really are.
I
And
think
then
some
we can
signage
see,
would help you when they come in there, when they come off
Yeah.
Green Street, just say boat ramp entrance.
Let me finish going through these, because we're getting into like little details that we can absolutely talk about for the next year or two while we try to raise money to pull this off. The last two things, we wanted to add significant green space. Again, I know this doesn't look super impressive, but trust me when I say that is a heck of a lot more green space than currently exists right now. This is actually a very significant space which could function as a pocket park. I think there's a really nice opportunity for some sort of iconic public art right here, whether it's a sculpture, whatever it is, that kind of is like a placeholder. This is the marina, and maybe there's little trails coming in and benches or whatever, but that's a significant green addition right there. And we did green up a little bit here in the parking area in and around the Fish Whistle as well as around really the perimeter of this whole area. And if we were to disjoin these, this could be a neat little additional green plaza area as well. And lastly, the public repeatedly was talking about we need more kayak access, so we're showing a kayak launch here and a potential kayak storage area here. Maybe we rent kayaks out of here, but that's on the plat. So signage, little details, you know, I don't know that we need to go through all that right now, but I think conceptually I would like us to be on the same page. Like, it's not going to be condos up here, for example. We're not going to be fixing boats here, which you know, the marina did for years unsuccessfully. So, you know, I guess now I'd just like to open the floor for your guys' comments. Well, I think the reason that I also want to get this conceptually approved is I still can't raise money until I have a dollar figure. And until we approve this conceptually, I can't set bill or case loose on this to bring in marine architects or contractors and say, what is this going to cost? What's this whole thing going to cost? At least give me a ballpark within $500,000 of what this is going to cost.
so
And when we have that number, then we can really start